All right. So we always start with greatest common factor. Okay. I'm going to start over. Always start here because if you can break it down into smaller numbers, then it's usually a little bit easier to deal with. So though 45 and 36 have a couple common factors, right? They've got three. They both have threes. I guess that's it. And then 9. We always want to pick the greatest common factor, which would be 9. Okay. Simply because when we have to reduce later on or something, it just makes life easier. So what's the greatest common factor between 12x and 6x? 12x squared and 6x.
6x.
Yeah, 6 and x, right? And if I'm factoring out a 6x, I can think about it like this. If I divide each of these by 6x, what's left? Well, 12x squared divided by 6x
2x squared.
is 2x,
2x.
right?
And then x.
And then 6x divided by 6x, this is the same thing, right? Anything divided by itself is 1, right? Anything minus itself is 0, but anything divided by itself is 1. And we can always check to make sure. So this would be the answer. This is the factored form of this expression. How do we classify this expression?
That's a
Degree is quadratic. Quadratic binomial. Nomial, right? So let's move on to the next one. Oh, and we can always check to make sure that we got it right by multiplying it back out. 6x times 2x is 12x squared. 6x times 1 is 6x. So check, we did get it right. Okay, this is the answer. This is our check. Okay. What's common between these two? 2, right? And once I factor that out, I'd be left with an x. And once again, 2 divided by 2 is 1. Whoa, this one looks complicated. What's my greatest common factor here?
5x.
5x squared.
5x squared. Let's take a look, and does everybody see that? 5x squared. All of them have x squared in them, right? So if I divide each of these by 5x and squared, right? Then the 5s are good. Now let's think about that. So if I have x to the 4th is this, right? X squared is this. We'll kind of expand out all the different factors, right? You can see, okay, 5 divided by 5 is 1, x divided by x is 1, x divided by x is 1, and I'm left with x squared. So when I factor that out, I am left with x squared. Now let's look at this one, 15x times x over 5 times x. So those x divided by x divided by x, I'm going to break this up into 5 times 3, 5 divided by 3, and I'm left with 3 and x. So plus 3x plus 4. So now that's factored, right? Woohoo! And last, what's common in both of these? Nothing. Can't factor it. You can factor out a 1 and say 1 times 3x squared plus 5. But you could also just say no common factors. No common factors. Okay? So why don't we do our little practice thing down here and practice all these, and we'll hang out for a second. Check and make sure we're good for now, right? What did people get as the greatest common factor between 56 and 16? 8, right? Because 56 is 8 times 7, and 16 is 2 times 8, right? So 8 would be our greatest common factor. How about between 12 and 15? 3. 3, right? That one's probably pretty easy. How about this one? What do people get for this one?
28.
Oh, 48.
48, right? Because the factors of this are 1 and 96, right? 2 and 48, 3 and something, 32, right? Yep. 4 and
16.
24, right? Now, how could you do that if you don't know these? If you haven't been doing this for 15 years, like doing these in your head for 15 years, how could you figure that out? Yeah, go through with your calculator, type it in. 96 divided by 4 is 24, right? Now, how about 48? What are some of, and then you could do 5, 5 doesn't go in, 6 and 16, I think somebody said. Yep, 6 and 16, right? 7, no, 8 and
12.
12, okay. 8 and 12, okay. 9, no. 10, no. And we're there, right? Okay. 48, 1 and 48. Oh, we're not going to get any bigger than that, are we? That's our greatest common factor, 48. Okay. So I highly encourage you, if you're doing these problems, take the time to do them, right? Okay. Let's pause for just, I'm going to pause for just a second. All right, well, let's do these together. What was our common factor here? 2, right? And I'm just going to write it here, and then I'm going to divide this by 2, that by 2, and I'm going to be left with what?
3x plus 1.
3x plus 1. Okay? Check. Good. How about here? This one's a little more difficult.
Yes.
3x. Divide those by 3x, and I'm left with
X minus 3.
x, right? Because the 3's cancel, the x's cancel. And then divide this by 3x, and I get x minus 3. Okay? How about this one?
6x squared.
12x squared.
12x squared. Whoa. Now, let's, just for fun, let's do 6x and see what happens. Let's assume that 6x is the greatest common factor, right? And then I would be left with 2 and x squared, and 6 minus 6x, right? Because 36x squared divided by 6x squared is going to give me 6x. Now you'll notice, oh wait, I still have some factors there, right? Okay. So I still have a 2x in there, don't I? Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, so then I can divide that by 2x again, right? But I have to multiply that, so I'd end up with 12x squared, right? And then I can divide each of these by 2x, and I'm going to be left with x
Minus 3.
minus 3. So this would be the completely factored form. Okay?